Reality
Therapist
what's been going
perception.
on.
Bachelorette.
Hello and welcome back to Reactivity TV. I'm Amy Albero and I'm a licensed therapist.
I am Chris. I'm not a licensed therapist, but the show has a lot to talk about, and there doesn't appear to be anybody else in the house right now. So here I am.
Yes, so we will be talking all about Bachelor in Paradise, Season 9, Episode 9, and
Penultimate episode.
And it was a short one, so we're going to keep this a short one too.
37 minutes with no commercials.
Great.
Yeah. Production, please, more of that.
Yes, please. But before we get into all of our thoughts and reactions, please go ahead and hit that like button at the bottom of this video and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. These two things are small, they take a second, and they actually go a really long way, and they mean a lot to us.
Yeah, and please also hit that bell icon so that you're alerted anytime we post new content to the channel.
All right. So
I got two things to start us off this week.
okay.
So the first is a question about precedent. Is there any precedent specifically within Paradise where an individual is offered a rose and doesn't immediately accept it, but does a conversation or a look or a wink or a nod or something to somebody else to see if he's getting their rose? In other words, say there are two people that I think might be giving me a rose. I have a preference towards one, but the second one is called first, and she offers me a rose. I don't want to insult the girl is my number one. Any precedent for that?
Again, all of you Bachelor historians in the comments, please weigh in here. I don't recall any like signals being exchanged. People have declined roses before on Paradise with the hope that they might get it from someone else. We just talked about this on Gabby and Rachel's season. Several people turned down roses from Rachel in hopes that Gabby would give them a rose.
How many of those backfired? Many?
Don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
for Rachel, this is a
rough.
Yeah, rough. So if we were gonna label this episode, it's like the episode of self-eliminations. We had 3 in total, I believe, and then we had a couple of others that, quite frankly, knew they were going home, so they might as well have. Really rocky episode. People all up in the air. Relationships breaking down. Yeah, it was kind of for a very short episode. A lot happened. And quite frankly, I feel like we need to take a victory lap because almost every, I don't know if you want to call it a prediction, but assessment that we've made on many of these relationships, I believe came to fruition, and we were more or less proven right.
Like, what are you thinking about?
Blake, Jess, Mercedes Taylor, Jess and Tanner, Rachel, all of Rachel's stuff. Yeah, I feel like across the board, this was a good episode for us. This really hit home on a lot of the stuff that we've been saying for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, I guess, validating in some way. Like, there's only so much you can hide in an edit before, like, the truth will out, as the expression goes.
So, second question, did production do Rachel dirty, or is this sort of a natural consequence of her own sort of, I'll say, bad test taking over the her span of this franchise?
Well, when you say did production do her dirty, what do you mean?
Well, not to spoil all the stuff in the episode, but she had told Jordan that he's getting the rose. I got a lot to say about Jordan in this episode, but ultimately he makes a play at Mercedes as well. Now that the Tyler and Mercedes thing's blowing up, Mercedes might give Jordan the rose, and production calls Mercedes first before calling Rachel, which is an interesting situation here. Because Jordan seemed to have been very into Rachel. Rachel seemed to be very into him. Rachel, sort of like, if I'm Jordan, I'm dubious about Rachel at this point because she sent me home once. She already, went with somebody else or kind of indicated she was going with somebody else over me. And now only because that guy insulted her, am I now getting the rose? I feel like I am just the backup plan constantly. So I don't blame Jordan for exploring an opportunity with Mercedes. But production knew that as well. And so this just felt like a moment where, like, okay, we haven't gotten Rachel to crumble yet this season. Is this the moment we can get her to crumble?
Yeah. I mean, I had said to you when we were watching, like, no, they're having Mercedes go first.
Mhm.
Like I just kind of knew it. It makes for better television. But yeah, I mean, that does mean that Rachel is kind of like in this like losing position. What was her other choice? Give the rose to Brayden, like who already turned her down, and to what end? You know,
Well, there
and
was also Taylor was available.
no, but I mean that's why like and we'll get into this more as we get into the episode, but like that was what was so interesting about the men versus the women. The self-eliminations were from the men mostly until Rachel. And meanwhile the women are like still trying to like flounder and figure out a way to make it work when there's like literally a week left.
Mhm.
And so I kind of have a lot of respect for Blake and Tyler for like not trying to just force something to happen. Like no one else is coming down. Like this is it.
Yeah. All right, so shall we get into the actual kind of contents? This episode, you know why I love this episode? Because
Because it was
production,
37 minutes.
it was 37 minutes, yeah, but no, because production made it so easy. They coupled everybody up and they gave them to us an entire couple in one smack and moved on to the next couple.
Mhm.
There was none of this back and forth and this is going on here and then back over here. It was fantastic. So we can just run them right down couple by couple in the order that we saw them.
All right.
All right. We start off with Blake and Jess. The cliffhanger from last episode was Blake pulling Jess aside, basically saying, like, starting a conversation that we knew didn't sound good just from the edit. And you didn't know how on earth those words could come out of his mouth and it not be a tough conversation.
Mhm.
So, and that's what turns out to be. He's basically like, look, I've spent way more time with you than I ever spent with
Katie.
Katie. And there's no spark here. I'm trying,
He wasn't the one who used the word spark, but he basically said essentially like we're not a
we're friends.
we're
Lovers.
not far along on this love thing. Like it's just not here.
Jess initially in the voiceovers had, sort of one narrative. And then, of course, after Blake said his piece, her narrative sort of changes a little bit and much more of a, oh, yeah, I agree. Meanwhile, you definitely got the impression that had Blake not hit this head on, she would have continued this
Sure.
charade for
Yeah.
the rest of the time here. Yeah. And so ultimately, Blake more or less breaks up with her. He does kind of leave the door open to basically say, like, is this my imagination or are you really just like not into me at all? And she kind of plays the story of all like I'm trying really hard. Meanwhile, I think all of us have been pretty blunt about believing we don't see much trying on her end, right? She's had, one foot out the door, head on a swivel looking for her next opportunity the entire trip, right? So I don't know your thoughts.
No, I mean it was a long time coming. I respect Blake for just saying like I thought that was a really good insight in thinking about like, okay, I just had my ex come down. Yet they literally spent like only a couple of hours together and he was able to fall in love and propose and think he's going to spend the rest of his life with someone. And so now he's had like days and weeks with Jess. So I thought that like drawing that comparison of insight was a good one. But I'm like as a viewer, just like thank God it's over. Like
Yeah.
I'm so done.
Well, what we had said after the first episode, we were debating different games that we might try to play on this podcast, and one of them was like kind of guess how long couples would last, and it didn't make it into the final cut, and we scrapped it. But in that, we had said that Blake and Jess are both such nice people, but non-confrontational people that we thought that they would just coast along for a while, but it would never go anywhere. And I wish that had made it into the first episode now because we nailed that one dead on. And that's exactly what ended up happening. They both were too nice. They never really made plays at other people because they didn't want to insult each other, more or less, except for that a little bit here with Jess. And then it just went nowhere, did nothing, and they didn't take the opportunities they had to explore other options. And I think it's a failure on both their parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. So now Blake decides after breaking up with her, he's just going to self-eliminate, heads off to the vans, and Kylie of all people goes running after him. I didn't understand this. I was really confused. Why Kylie? And then it was like such an awkward exchange. It felt to me like she's flirting. She's trying to like draw out like something. At one point, I'm sitting there. I turned to you. I said, "Are they about to make out? Like, what is going? I don't understand any of this. Give me your take."
Yeah, I agree that it was unexpected to see Kylie chasing after Blake. But one thing that we've seen from Blake is that he seems to have a lot of relationships with many of the women on the beach. And so like Kylie could be one of those women that he has a strong connection with. But when I rewatched it for a second time, it kind of felt you just used the words Kylie was trying to draw something out of him. That was kind of what I was getting, where I was like, is she trying to get Blake to say that he has a crush on her or something? Just in the way that they engaged. But no, it was really weird. I did wonder as well, like maybe Kylie was just intoxicated and so like was
Looking for
oh
compliments.
just well not even just maybe like her flirtatiousness kind of came through more than was intended. But yeah, it was really unexpected.
I can't do this without you. Like what? We haven't seen them on camera really at all together in any meaningful way. It was strange. Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So then next, we go to the Tyler and Mercedes. And this is we left off last episode where Mercedes gets some cruel reality from
Roast.
the roast, but also the box,
Oh, the truth
the truth
box.
box. Yep. And so she decides that she's going to go and talk to Tyler, and kind of figure out what's going on. And Tyler, for his part, this is the second time they've sort of had a conversation. The first time he was pretty blunt and honest, and she heard it and interpreted it correctly and did nothing with that information. And this time around, he's again pretty blunt. Like, yeah, there's no spark. Um, and she's like, so basically, you're just wasting my time, and you're here to have a good time. And he didn't have a really good answer to that at all. Because exactly like we've known that, and again, she's late to the party. We all realized that weeks ago. So yeah, they ultimately break up, and she tells him flat out, "You're not getting my rose." And so he just on the heels of Blake self eliminates as well.
Right, right. Well, so here's the thing. You said that Mercedes was late to the party on this. But she wasn't, because what she said to him is, you don't make me feel wanted. You like never show me affection. And so she was picking up on the signs. And this is one of those situations where, like, why are you putting the onus of deciding whether or not this relationship is going to move forward in the hands of someone else, when clearly what they're telling you through their actions is a turnoff? Like, it sounds to me, Mercedes, like you want someone that makes you feel wanted. It sounds to me that you want someone that will express more affection to you. And so Tyler is not meeting your standard. And so you can decide, you're not cutting it for me, dude. I'm out. Like, why do we need to make the decision Tyler? Like, Tyler to be the one to reject her.
Yeah, and for the record, those standards are pretty low. It's a low bar.
Oh,
Right.
total
Yeah.
low bar. Yes. I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Kat and Tanner
Yeah.
situation of, again, like never really knowing where he was at, no open mouth make out, all of that stuff. And it's like, okay, you're giving yourself the information that you need to know that this isn't the relationship for you. So why are you still fighting for it? I think this is a thing that happens in dating all the time. And that we as individuals like need to do a better job of understanding what our wants and needs are, and holding ourselves and the people that we are dating accountable to that.
Hmm. Yeah, completely agree. All right. Anything else on those two before we move on to Michael and Olivia?
No.
All right. So Michael and Olivia, real fast, nothing to see here. He basically builds her
Builds her.
he builds her, yeah, a fake basketball court type thing. They shoot a couple shots, we get a couple of kisses. They seem to be coasting to the end at this point. So good for Olivia. Big fans of Olivia. Happy to see that in the end you're going to survive through the entire 3-week process, and you found somebody that you can vibe with for a while. Interested to see if it has legs after the fact, but this late in the party, they're not getting engaged, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So after that, we go to the Rachel situation.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Rachel, we get the conversation between Rachel and Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
where Rachel is basically like, I have such a great time with you. And meanwhile, I'm in the back of my head thinking, and I'm sure Jordan is too, then why were the second after we were at our date, were you back in the arms of Tanner? Right? Until Tanner roasted you. So she says to him, you're getting my rose, basically. He secures it. Good for you. You secured the rose. But then we see,
Well, like right after that, it cuts to Rachel in ITM saying, um, I deserve someone that's all in on me, and kind of feeling like that person could be Jordan right now. And then, yeah, and then we cut to
and
Jordan on
then
the.
then Jordan goes to Mercedes. Now I want to pause here for a second because,
No, we see Jordan basically saying before he goes to
oh
Mercedes,
yeah,
I get more of a friend vibe from Rachel. Um, and yeah,
which is fair. As I alluded to earlier, the issue with Jordan here with Rachel is she rejected you twice. She rejected you on the season. She then proceeded. You had a great date with her that we all like. There was a lot of chemistry there. She rejects you for Tanner, and now you're the backup to Tanner when that falls through. Like, if Rachel here is not being fair, you want to be somebody's number one and somebody who's 100% all in on you. You have not been 100% all in on Jordan yet. He is your backup. It's clear he's your backup. You've made it abundantly known to all of America he's your backup, and you've literally rejected him twice before this. Why would you think that he would feel safe and secure in a relationship with you? Right? And so, yeah, he goes to Mercedes. Don't blame him one bit. This one is on Rachel. Some of the others, you can be more forgiving, and she caught some bad luck and some of it's whatever, but like this one's 100% on her. If I'm Jordan, I do not feel secure because she could be back with Tanner when he comes and bats his pretty little face eyes at her or whatever it is, flexes those six packs at her, and suddenly she's back with Tanner in a heartbeat. So yeah, he goes, basically says to Mercedes, hey, I was really interested in you. One of the reasons I didn't pick you to go on a date because it seemed like you were locked in on Tyler. Now that you're not, I want you to know I'm interested. And I like Jordan. There's something about this guy that I think he's like a smarter John Henry in some ways. I like him. And yeah, so that's where we kind of leave that off, where this is really the triangle of the episode, and this is where all the drama of the episode is really going to unfold. And we'll come back to them at the rose ceremony. But anything before we move on?
no, I think you make a lot of good points there about like Jordan and his experience and why he would be cautious to go all in on Rachel. And it does lead me to wonder, like, why did he pick Rachel for the one-on-one?
I was very curious about that, if you recall, because I had said at that point, she has already rejected you once. Why are you taking another shot? And you had said it ego.
Yeah, I think it was ego. And maybe it was like, again, not to be like so Machiavellian about it, but like maybe it was also to have the opportunity to be in this position now to reject her. I don't know.
I mean, that's yeah, you're I mean, that you're taking a big risk just for that. Now, what I will say is that there are plenty of people who would be willing to take that risk just for the opportunity.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe that was like a secondary gain from all of this, is like,
Worst case scenario, I get to reject her this time. Yeah.
So the only kind of thing that's left a little lingering with the Jordan, Mercedes, Rachel situation is that after Mercedes and Jordan have their conversation, Mercedes is still a little bit like lukewarm about what to do, and she's in a position where she's just wondering if she should leave. So at that point, we know that Rachel is 100% giving her rose to Jordan. Jordan is not into Rachel in a romantic way. He is into Mercedes, but Mercedes is unsure. So we are left with a question mark around what will happen with the rose ceremony. And to bring up your point at the top of the episode, this is where like the timing of or the order of giving out roses will really matter. I just want to take a quick pause to tell you that Revive is hiring. In our Miami and Pittsburgh offices, we have full and part-time W-2 and 1099 clinician positions available, and this includes both postgraduate and associate level licenses, in addition to fully licensed clinicians. In our Connecticut offices, we have full-time, fully licensed W-2 clinician positions available, including clinical supervisor opportunities. If you are interested in working for a company that values community, work-life balance, and your personal and professional growth, then we want to meet you. Find a link to our website in our bio.
Yeah, and so we kind of leave that on the cliffhanger until we get to the rose ceremony to see where they're going to go with this. But in the meantime, what we have are the guys all shooting their shots that are now really up in the air. We've got Taylor, which we've already said, this is this guy was dead on arrival. We all knew that. He's trying to make a case, but he's got no dates. He's been there for, basically he's got like 3 hours with, three of the women and like 5 hours with five of the women. He's got no shot. And poor him, we got a situation with him at the end of the episode.
Yeah, it sucks.
And because of the self-eliminations, the ones sitting there without the roses at this point are Braden and Tanner. But we've now got Jess who's open.
Taylor.
Tyler's already self-eliminated.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're eliminating Taylor from like viable prospects.
Tyler's not a viable prospect.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have Tanner. Only one man's going home.
Yeah.
Right at this moment.
Yeah.
Because we've got Blake and Tyler self-eliminate. Taylor's dead on arrival. So really, it just means that in some combination, one of these men is, you have Jess and Rachel. Between Jess and Rachel, one of them is going to go to Braden and one of them is going to go to Tanner, presumably. That's how the math shakes out, right? That is, in fact, not what happens. So the first thing we see is Braden go and shoot his shot with Jess. This is DOA. There was no shot. I think we all kind of knew what was actually going to happen here. We've seen enough of the face to cameras that Jess is really into Tanner, and now Tanner is looking for a rose. So, I don't even think Tanner needed to have a conversation with her. She was giving his rose to him since he's free on the market.
Well, I don't even think she realized that Tanner was a possibility until he had what appeared to be the first conversation with her ever.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Braden does his best. We like Braden. So, we were hopeful something would happen. I don't believe Braden ever goes and has a conversation with Rachel. I still don't understand why that ended as poorly as it did. It just, but regardless. Then we have Tanner pull Jess. Obviously, she's beaming. This was some of the worst salesmanship I've ever seen. But again, Tanner's got hot guy problems. Like, he doesn't need to be charismatic. He doesn't need to be anything other than just that hot. And this demonstrated nothing he said to Jess on any level was,
so here's my question for you, because I'm all in on Tanner, and just wait until we get to what my rose is for the week. But when we were watching, I was totally buying what Tanner was selling because he's so attractive.
It literally was complete nonsense. Well, there was no genuineness. There was no belief in his own words.
What I think I asked you while we were watching is, do you think Tanner knows this is all bullshit, or do you think he actually believes that he's being like earnest right now?
Do we think that any point in time in this entire season has he demonstrated any like actual interest in a relationship with anybody? He's bounced from girl to girl to girl, which is probably what he's done in his entire life, basically from the point of him becoming an extremely attractive individual. This is just a hot guy doing what hot guys do, and that's it. It's simple as that.
It works.
And look, good for him. It works. Gonna leave a lot of broken hearts in his wake, and he's left like 3 or 4 of them just in this show alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. Again, this is one of those things where if every day is a sunny day, what's a sunny day kind of situation. Like I don't think he probably realizes just how easy being hot is making it for him. But he certainly knows what he's doing. Yeah, there's no question about that. So yeah, at that point, anybody who was watching the show knew Jess's rose is going to Tanner. So it's like, okay, well, now we're back to the Braden Rachel thing. So we get to the rose ceremony. All right. And so we got the roses going in order. Eliza, Aaron B, no question there.
We should just say Aaron tells Eliza that he's he's in love with her this week. So milestone moment in their relationship. So yes, okay.
Yeah,
they're going to the end. He's going to propose.
Yeah.
Which I also again predicted.
You predicted that in episode 1. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you've been dead right on that one the entire time. Yeah. Well, episode 2, they got together in episode 2. The first episode they were together.
Yeah.
Because remember he did that thing. Remember way back then with the Mercedes and Aaron.
Oh yeah, and I said he's getting a favorable edit. And it's because he's going to the end.
Yeah, something like that. That was like the first drama actually of the season was actually him. Go figure, dude. They'd end up being boring and doing very little. He's had his moments, I guess, but yeah. So in order, we've got Eliza to Aaron B, no shock there. Kat to John Henry, no shock. Kylie to Avon, no shock. Olivia to Michael, no shock. Sam to Peter, they're still on the show. Keep forgetting about them now. They've really faded into the background.
Mhm.
And then Jess to Tanner, which was a question mark, but not really. And then we come down to Mercedes and Rachel. And as you predicted, production gives the first pick to Mercedes. Mercedes goes with Jordan. And that leaves Rachel standing there in front of Taylor. This fucking guy. I feel bad for him because he just had no shot.
I
Even I can't
know,
remember his
but
name.
he thought he had a shot because Jess said Tanner and he thought she said Taylor, and
Yeah.
poor guy.
So with Mercedes giving the rose to Jordan, that leaves Rachel in this situation. Taylor and Braden are the options. I did look at you and I said, is it just possible that Taylor just gets in by default because Rachel's mad at Braden? And you looked at me back and said, I predicted it 3 episodes ago or whatever it was. She's self-eliminating. I thought it was going to happen 3 episodes ago. It's happening now. And I'm like, yeah, I could see that happening. And then she proceeds 10 seconds later to self-eliminate.
Yeah.
So what is it that you saw to predict that she was going to self-eliminate?
I think it's just that, like, how much more pain and embarrassment can one person, and rejection, it's not embarrassment, it's rejection, can one person experience? Like, what is your threshold for that? And quite frankly, like, hers is a lot higher than mine would have been, which is why I predicted it 3 episodes ago and not now. um I God, Rachel has had a hugely awful experience on this franchise. When you think about, oh gosh, her season with Clayton and just that whole mess, and then her season with Gabby, another huge mess at the beginning, the engagement, the whole thing, and now this. Like, Blake talked about at the beginning how he's done this 3 times and it's not worked for him. Rachel's having a much worse experience than Blake has had, by far. And so I guess I was just thinking, I know that Rachel, like, has self-respect, and again, she must have a threshold for how much rejection she can take. We heard her monologuing a few episodes ago when she was kind of like walking on the beach. And so I could see her saying, like, I've already done this before. I've given my final rose to someone who was not who I thought he was or would be a good partner to me. I'm not going to put myself in a risky situation again, and I'm out. So
Yeah. So what I find actually interesting is, I like the cause and effect and the chain of events and how things play out. And had Becca not come down to the beach, and had Braden not jumped at that date, both Braden and Rachel end up going home this week. And are they still coasting along? And are they actually two ones that we would have just been saying, they're safe? But instead, they both end up going home here. And Braden, in particular, is acutely aware of that. He's made comments about it every episode since then about how it was a blunder. So I find that very interesting. And I still, while I don't really understand the fallout because they seem to be cordial about it, she was unwilling to just coast along to see what happens. And I guess what you're saying is nobody else is coming down. This is it at this point. And so, at this point, if you're going to self-eliminate, if you're looking at the people there and you say, there's no one here for me, and I know that, why stick around other than just waste some time?
well, and that's why, like, on a big level, I respect Rachel self-eliminating way more than Mercedes and Jess
Oh, certainly.
moving forward at this point. Like, what for what?
Well, in Jess's case, she really actually is into Tanner.
Yeah,
So
true.
she thinks she can actually take a shot here. Mercedes, I don't know. Here's the argument, right? The guys that Mercedes and Jess are kind of now sort of paired up with, Jordan is just gotten to the beach. So Mercedes, he's enough of a question mark that you can see why Mercedes would want to give it a week and see what happens. Jess has been into Tanner, and even though Tanner is not actually that interested in her, and they're never going to work out because he is not ready or interested in a committed relationship, she is so young and naive that she probably is like, this is my shot now. So I agree in like sort of a mature understanding of the world sense that Rachel took the correct path here and did what she should do, and the other two really took paths that are not probably going to be productive in the long run. You kind of see how they got there. There's a lot of naivety and there's a lot of kind of immaturity in the decision. But we were all 22 once or 24, or however old they are.
24 and 25.
24, 25. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I can't say that if I was 24, 25, I would have made a different decision.
Fair.
So yeah. So that's literally the episode.
Yeah, the episode was like half the remainder of the cocktail party and the rose ceremony.
And we have a rule around here. Our podcast cannot be longer than the episode. So anything you want to talk about before we get into grade the game?
No.
All right.
I'm so conflicted on this. She gets an A.
D-.
Doing 3 guys this week. We're going to end up doing Tyler, Jordan, and Tanner. So start off with Tyler. Self-eliminates after blowing things up with Mercedes.
I think he was just like looking down the barrel of a gun and knowing like, shit, if I tell her I'm into this, like I actually have to commit to her and I don't want commitment. Clearly is not like looking for a long-term relationship. So I feel like he wasn't in that conversation to play the game. The game he was playing was to get the fuck out.
Interesting.
And so I think that he succeeded in that sense. He was not playing that to try to stay.
Yes.
In that to get out.
I think that's an insightful point, but I'll modify it slightly. So he understood his runway. He understood I'm here and I'm basically here to find a girl that I can coast along with and have as much fun as possible until that point in time in which I've got to bail. And he picked a girl that was available and gave him the greatest runway. And the runway ran out. And so I wouldn't say that he was trying to get eliminated here. What I'm saying is he knew where his runway ended, and he wasn't going to do a Gary Turner and overpromise or something like that. He wasn't going to be a Tanner who's just going to say whatever.
Say what he needs to
say. He was, he's like, I'm going to pick the girl that is literally going to demand the least of me for as long as possible. And the second she demands something of me, I'm done. And so in that regards, he's going to get an A because he literally got to spend a week and a half on this beach, never really getting challenged in any meaningful way.
Hang out with his friends. Just drinking, chilling, got paid whatever he got paid to be there. And that's it.
Yeah. Got to make out with a couple random, girls. And everyone except for me still seems to have forgotten the Jess makeout. Just saying, that happened. I didn't dream it, people. But apparently I'm the only one who remembers that. So I give him an A because I think he did exactly what he was trying to do. And, maybe an A- because he couldn't find a way to push her off a little longer. But the truth box really, really screwed him up. If it wasn't for the truth box, he would have coasted all the way to the end. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have to say that joke on the roast either.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think
every guy got an F for the roast. Everyone.
Yeah. Agreed.
Go back and listen to that episode. All right. Want a classic case on what not to do as a man in a relationship. Go back and listen to our commentary on the episode with the roast, was that last episode?
No.
2 episodes ago? My God, we podcast a lot these days. All right. Shall we move on to Jordan?
Sure.
Go for it.
Okay. So Jordan was able to secure a rose from 2 women this week. And from going from like a sort of no name out on date 1 kind of guy, wasn't even really in last week's episode, to now becoming like the Bachelor paradise in a small way. Good for him. I'm going to give him an A-.
Interesting. Why the minus?
Because giving him an A feels a little bit too generous.
Okay. Then you're going to hate my grade. Not only does he get an A for me, but I actually think that this might have been the best gamesmanship of the entire season of any character.
Wow.
I'd have to go back and think about it. Don't quote me on that, but he secured effectively 2 roses, and at the meantime, he got to stick it to the girl that rejected him twice. I mean, I don't know how much more you land than that. He's now going to coast in and be able to hang out for the rest of the time on the beach. There's no more roses to give. And he's in a situation where nobody in their right mind would assume that he's going to get down on one knee in a week. So there's no expectations for him. There's no, really stakes for him at this point. He literally just hang out and drink for the next week on the beach. That's it.
Okay.
And he got to stick it to Rachel, which maybe that didn't value, maybe that wasn't high for him, but it still had to feel a little good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not mad about your A. It just didn't feel like he was as calculated as some others we've given A's to in the past.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that leads us to Tanner, your boy Tanner.
Listen, Tanner has been able to, how many women has he been with?
All of them. All of them.
Right? So it was Kat, Davia, Rachel, Jess. Anyone else? He also made out with Mercedes.
He made out with Mercedes?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. He was like kissing everybody. And then he ended up giving his rose to Rachel that night.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, he kissed everybody on the beach that night. That's right. When he just lined them all up. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about it. How did you forget about that? Yeah, Tanner has done, again, how much of it is actual skill and how much of it is just being hot. He's the benefit. This is a classic case of just hot people have doors just open for them. And this is a classic case of that. You'd rather be hot than intelligent. You'd rather be hot than rich. You'd rather be hot. Because guess what? If you're hot, all those same doors open for you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So he's done very well. And I think similar to things that we've said about other cast members before, I'm sure he's really effective at getting dates and like getting into relationships, but like sustaining
He's also pretty
them.
effective at getting out of them too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because he doesn't want to stay in these relationships. That's not his goal.
Right.
So he's very effective at getting into them.
He says that's his goal.
Yeah, but that's all a lie. Again, this is behavioral economics, or what we call revealed preference in economics, where ignore everything that people say and only pay attention to what people do. And if you follow that, rubric, everything is telling you that he's really just kind of a fuckboy, right? He's getting into relationships, hanging out until there's any drama or until there's
work to do.
There's any work to do, and then he's out. He's on to the next girl every time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, maybe his, priorities are.
He's like 24 years old.
No, he's like 31.
Is he that old?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So, all right. So with that being said, let's go into Rose and Thorn.
Okay. You can go ahead and start because you seem to have a opinion about this.
So I have, I have two roses to give out. One is
you think you're Gary Turner this week.
Listen,
you gave out multiple roses on Golden.
In the hair here. My first rose goes to the 37-minute episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Great production. Thumbs up.
We appreciate.
Yeah. More of that.
But really who my rose goes to, like if I were to give, as we saw on Golden Bachelor, my golden rose to, what I would give it to would be to Tanner's Instagram.
Oh, I have no idea what we're talking about.
I was just, scrolling around today and Tanner popped up on my Explore feed.
Just popped up on her Explore feed. Yeah.
Well, because I was like in the midst of like looking at all of this like Gary and Teresa content. And so like it triggered an algorithm for like Bachelor content and Tanner popped up. And damn, I enjoyed looking at it.
Oh, am I going to enjoy you looking at it later?
He's a very attractive man. And anyway, so he's launching a fitness app. And so I could imagine that maybe his priorities are more toward career and et cetera, maybe than a relationship.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
Just hope some of that gravy spills off into my plate later.
Okay. And my thorn this week goes to Kat and John Henry and their entire relationship. We really didn't see much of them this episode, but we saw them in the outro and when they were laying on the daybed and talking about their bladders.
He admitted that he pees his pants regularly.
Yeah. To the point where he like doesn't
has a
have
hard
a strong
time holding
bladder.
It on land.
Yeah.
Dude, some things just keep to yourself.
Well, that's actually what it is. It's so funny. Catherine and I like disagree on this, but in my opinion, not professional opinion, but personal opinion, I do think that some things should remain a mystery and having like just so much intimateness knowledge about certain aspects of your bodily functions, I think, you know, can remain a little um secret. Not entirely, not out of shame or anything, but like we don't need to be sharing everything.
I completely agree with you. Like there are just some things. It just, especially when you deal with bodily functions, just close the door and deal with it. And if it's not a medical situation that warrants like awareness, like just regular human bodily functions, just close the door and just be done with it. Yeah, I agree. I'd like to think that we're open and we share conversations about all kinds of topics, but there is again just certain things like just I'll be like, maybe I'm just not going to say that. Just leave a little bit of mystery.
Yes. Well, and so it's that aspect of their conversation that got my thorn this week. And I have another thorn that's like more about next week's episode. And I imagine I'm going to have a lot to say about it then. But we hear in the previews for next week, two, one absurd thing and one reasonable thing. The absurd thing is that Kat feels like she's ready to get engaged to John Henry. Just fucking wild. And then we've been hearing basically since episode 2, no, I'm sorry, episode 1, when she comes down the stairs, Kylie saying that she's ready to get engaged to Avon. And we finally hear, we finally hear Avon in the previews for next week call her out on that and say, it sounds like it's only about an engagement for you. And so I'm going to have a lot of just, prepare. I'm going to have a lot of opinions on just engagements in general and, all of that to talk about next week. So that there's this like sentiment around engagements is like creating a thorn for me.
Interesting. Okay. So you're pre-thorning the
Yes.
episode for next week. Okay. My rose for the week, I actually really like the Blake Tyler self-eliminations. I just, it's a very masculine, very, very man type thing to do. And I liked it. And I get it, and it's probably the track I would have taken as well. A little off the beaten path, but 37-minute episode. We said we like 37-minute episode. But we only got 37 seconds of Olivia. I feel like I could have done a little more Olivia, a little less other people. So I'm just saying, like, I would have been perfectly fine if we went 40 minutes instead of 37 and got in 3 more minutes of Olivia.
Yeah, no, I love Olivia. She lights up the screen.
I don't think we got any narration from her this week, right? Like, I'm not talking about Olivia Michael. I don't care about any of that. Like she's the best narrator, and there was some drama happening, and I don't think we got any narration from her, right? She's off in love now, and so she doesn't have time to be paying attention to what's
Tell us what's going on.
Tell us what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like Olivia a lot. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Shall we get out of here?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So next week we will be back with our reactions to the finale of Bachelor in Paradise season 9. So definitely check that out. Again, if you hit that subscribe button or the bell icon, you'll be alerted when that next episode drops. If you are a Golden Bachelor watcher and you haven't checked out the A side of Reactivity TV for this week, Chris and I gave all of our thoughts to the Golden Bachelor finale. So go ahead and check that out. You can also listen to our other podcast, Wishing You Well, which is a wellness focused podcast where my co-host Catherine and I, another licensed therapist, help you navigate your wellness journey because living a well life is so important and it's also pretty complicated. So we help you each week navigate that. You can also follow along with us on Instagram at ReviveCFW. You can follow me at Amy Albero LCSW. You can check out our website, revivecfw.com. And that's it. So we will be back next week. See you at the finale. And have a good week. See ya.